With that, let's bring it back to the roundtable and we go straight to Congresswoman Edwards. It's true that the Speaker may privately believe that his party's future is on the line, but so far his stated position is no bill comes to the floor unless it's got to support a majority of Republicans. Can that kind of bill get the support of enough Democrats to pass?
Well, I think Speaker Boehner really is going to have to lead on this. I mean, he recognizes, I think, what's at stake. We're not going to bring the Senate bill to the floor, but it can be a framework for what we move forward in the House. And I think that depending on how they set up the rules, we can get a majority of Democrats and, more than enough Republicans who could move this bill forward.
But it would have to be a majority of Democrats. You're not going to get a bill that has a majority of Democrats and a majority of Republicans?
I don't want to predict what's going to happen, but I think that there are enough people among my colleagues who are Republicans who recognize how important this is for them, how important it is for the nation, and I feel really confident, but not overly so, that we can move a bill forward.
Meanwhile, Matthew Dowd, I was struck this week by the number of Republican voices in the House that said no way, no how, and also outside the House. Bill Kristol, leading Republican commentator in the Weekly Center. Here's what he wrote this week. He said, comprehensive immigration reform, just say no. He said, not only is it bad policy, but it would be good politics to stop the Senate bill. Here's what he said. It may be reassuring to elected officials that doing the right thing won't hurt politically in 2014 or most likely 2016. The House GOP, for the sake of party and country, should say no. No capitulation, no comprehensive bill, no conference.
Well, if I were people, I wouldn't be taking political advice from Bill Kristol, who selected Sarah Palin as one of his leading figures in the National Republican Party, which was obviously a disaster in 2008. To me, this is inevitable. This is not a question
passage of the
not as it's written in the Senate, but it's inevitable immigration reform will pass because policy and politics is merged together. Republicans know, whether they say it out loud or not, they know they have to deal with this issue if they're going to be a majority party anytime in the future with the numbers, the demographics of this country. We are going to be a majority-minority country in about 25 years. Republicans understand that if they hold their ground on this. What I think you'll see, George, is a series of Republicans who we thought were against this kind of thing over the next week, over the next 2 weeks, over the next month, will begin to do what happened in the Senate, which will stand up and say, no, we need to do this. And as that happens, they're going to have a conference committee. They're going to put this together. Immigration reform will pass.
You agree, Peggy?
Oh, I think this is a really tough one. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the House. I think there is a little bit of a perception in America that both of the parties in Washington want to do what's best for them and solve their problem with immigration. For the Democrats, they're going to get new voters. For the Republicans, they'll remove the thing that they believe has blocked them from being able to do successful reach out to Hispanics. I continue to think the essential problem with this immigration bill is that Americans have a problem trusting Congress with anything called comprehensive. I can imagine the Republicans in the House now starting to tease out good parts of the bill that everybody can agree on and saying, let's vote on that.
I think that is the strategy that at least some top Republicans are calling for, Tim Moran. Here would be the issue there. You might pass something on border security in the House. You might pass something on letting in a certain amount of guest workers. I don't believe a majority of Republicans right now would support legalizing those who are now here illegally.
Everybody thought this was going to get done because of the politics. But they may be shifting in the Republican Party, especially on the conservative wing. The notion that Republicans need Latino voters is actually fading in some parts of the conservative movement, who say all we need is to up our white vote from 59% to maybe 63, 65%.
And they live in the land of denial.
And given no Voting Rights Act, we can gerrymander the district so we don't have to face Latino voters.
Fair enough, but there are also, forgive me, Donna, right, there are also quickly Republicans who aren't thinking of it in terms of percent of the race of the voter that they get. They're thinking, wait a second, the Republicans ought to have good, sound, populist Main Street economic policy. That's the way to reach out to everybody, including to get the Hispanic vote.
$200 billion in positive economic activity. That's what immigration reform brings. And I think when you look at numbers like that, I think we can begin to make the case for immigration reform. And so I don't want to put it off the table. I know it's going to be a tough slog in the House. I've seen what's been going on in that place. But we can get this done, and we have to get it done for the country. country.
There's 12 million. I totally agree with the Congresswoman. There's 12 million people in this country that, to a large degree, drive economic growth. I live in Texas. I live in Austin. Spent a lot of time in California. Those two states, without a huge body of these folks who are undocumented, who drive a huge part of the economy, this country would be not the same country it was without that. We have to do something about this. Everybody knows the politics, and the policy is there. Something will get done.